Every now and then I will inadvertently, and sometimes on purpose, ruffle some stinking feathers. And talking about comms that's what happened. So in this video I want to break down why I said that in a contested environment, if I'm moving to contact, I will not rely on RF, right? Sometimes I think we have this idea in our head about because we watched the movies and we think we know how to operate. Maybe we do have some time in the military. Some dudes said I must have not had any time in the military because I didn't want to run a radio. But let's break this down. When are comms needed in SHTF? What are the scenarios where comms will be good to go? So in a permissive environment, right? You have a natural disaster. Maybe it's after a hurricane, some flash flooding in Texas. Maybe it was a raging fire. Are comms adequate? Absolutely, right? Absolutely good to go. And you should have those plans down now for both line of sight work as well as for getting outside of your area work. I'm talking about some HF stuff. How about we crank up the wheel from something like that to street mobs, right? And people shutting down traffic and violence in the streets, mostly peaceful protests, as they're called. Are comms good then? Probably so. Whether you're doing a convoy, a mounted operation, whether you are dismounted, whatever the case is, comms can be very integral into your operations to ensure efficiency. But how about we're in a contested environment, right? This is the SHTF wet dream, if you will. Well, to answer that question, I guess the first piece of this that we need is who is operating against us, right? Not necessarily who are we operating against, but who's operating against us. If the answer to that question is some renegade rogue of raiders who's come up from hot Atlanta and they crossed the mountains all the way up in here to northeast Atlanta, are comms good? Probably so, because they don't have the technology, they don't have the money, they don't have the support to do anything with, right? As far as to counter. Now, you could do some anti-comm stuff, but the odds of a local, untrained group of dudes who just wants to come up and steal resources to be able to triangulate, to be able to operate against you using your comms is slim to none. But what if it was against what if it was a state that was working against you, right? Talking maybe not the big S, right? Not the United States government, but maybe it was a large state like the state of Georgia, New York, California, and they're operating against folks. What do they have? They certainly have the resources, but do they have enough for everybody? No. So could radios work for you? Yes, but if you are working against anybody that has the potential, because they have the equipment, they have the training, they have everything that's required to locate, to fix, and to destroy somebody, then you'd be fools to use it as a primary means of comms. Certainly anything bigger, United States government, I mean, you're smoking crack. So let's break this down even more, right? You are in a squad. You're dismounted. You're conducting a patrol. Moving to contact, not moving to contact. Is a radio the thing to use? Well, if you spend any time in the military, you should know that nobody at a squad level communicates with one another using radio frequencies. You communicate using hand and arm signals and looking at each other, right? Keeping your head on a swivel. Squads may have a radio. Maybe you want to employ something like a handheld GMRS or UHF, VHF radio. Maybe you want to go a little bit bigger and you want to get a ICOM 705 or something equivalent. Who are you going to be talking to? Well, you might be in the military, you'd be talking back to your company, right? If you're moving out as a platoon. Talking back to your CP. Well, in the civilian world, who's your CP? How far are you operating away from it? If you're living in an area like I do, comms outside of a 10, 15 mile radius, it's just not going to happen. Once you get into the hollers, you got some serious terrain that's working against you. And even if you could, what are you going to say? Oh, I made it. Oh, I need help. Who's going to come? Do you have a QRF? Do you have the kind of logistical and sustainment support for your operations? Can you get a resupply in a chow dropped off at a 8-digit grid coordinate? Or are we all just smoking crack? See, team, I think sometimes, again, we glamorize something that we saw, that we heard, that we think that might be true because the grand thumbs of the YouTube verse said it was going to be such a great idea because he's got this throat mic set up and all these headsets and he's talking to his teammate as he's moving through playing airsoft. Man, it all briefs well. But it doesn't work out so good sometimes. Now, how hard is it to triangulate somebody, right? If you're on the move, actually, it's a little bit of a challenge. I mean, there are some high-speed equipment that's out there. But you can RF fairly easy, you know, even using a couple handheld radios, as long as you have some meters on it, to determine what location a frequency is coming from. But if somebody's on the move, odds are they're going to know where you were, but not necessarily where you're going to. So what else can we do? So number one, we can be moving. If we have to use comms, what are the TTPs that we can use to help mitigate some of those risks that are inherent with using RF? One, we can move, right? We don't want to operate from a command post. The very thing that you think that you need to be able to talk back to for support. If they're constantly communicating from a single point, it is too easy to triangulate and to fix on that location. So we want to try to stay moving. Something else that we can do is not have a standard time in which that we will communicate, right? We don't send reports at 06 and 1800 on the daily. Sometimes we may not transmit at all. So learn how to use some discipline when you're keying on the mic. When you do key on the mic, you need to use short burst transmissions, right? If you can, there are some tools out there that will send a burst of data through a regular radio that can be received on the distant end and then decoded. Maybe you pick up a scrambler. I mean, that's cool, but the scramblers, those are all public, right? You're not gonna pick up a radio that has a scrambler function on it and nobody else be able to not have the ability to descramble it. But they're cool. Sound like a gargled mess. We can change what frequencies that we operate on. We can work through our pace plan. I can transmit, and this is why I love a couple of my radios. Anything is dual band, right? Because I can listen on one frequency, but I can transmit on another. So if I have me and my distant end, if they're transmitting on VHF and I'm transmitting on UHF, if somebody happens to be able to key in on one of those freaks, they're only going to know half the conversation, right? And just like, triangulating is one thing that you can do. But if you have any kind of a spec Annie or a waterfall, if you like with my ICOM, I can look at the frequency band and I can see where there are spikes and I can tune in to listen to what's going on. Like any kind of SDR is going to do that. It's pretty easy to do, to find those freaks and to listen to them. But talking back on things that we can do, right? Alternate, have an actual pace plan and utilize it. Vary our times. Use pro words is another really good one. Now you could get really high speed and have you can have a way of communicating that is not encrypted on a radio, but unless you have the code, nobody will ever know what it is that you're saying. It's not just good for radios, but it's good for all forms of communication. If you want to know more about that, become a member. You'll be able to download the Partisan Radio Operator's Handbook, or you can go to Amazon and buy it. You can learn more about that. We'll talk more about that later, I guess. But team, these are some real-world ways that we can reduce risk, as well as identify what some of the risks are with using comms based off of the level of the wet dream that we're having, right? Leave some comments down below. Are comms paramount to your operation in a contested environment? Are they paramount in an uncontested environment? Do you practice and use comms in your area with your people in your training? Or are we all just blowing smoke up each other's asses? Tim, I'm looking forward to hearing your comments down below as we all continue to master our craft and develop our tactical virtue. If you want to know some more real-world applications for this, you can go check out that book right there, the SHTF Field Manual. You can get a signed copy from me through my website, or you can buy one from Amazon. I appreciate you guys. Until then, you stay out there. You keep grinding, and you stay stoked. Team, if you want to master your craft and develop your tactical virtue, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so that you can stay up to date with future content. Consider becoming a channel member. It's going to give you exclusive access to content not available to anybody else. I appreciate you guys. Until then, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked.
We know you're out there! Come to my voice!